if you're always looking to get to your next appointment and worried about that, you're not going to notice Lakshmi around you. It's going to be totally missed. So that's why, again, I love that phrase, stop and smell the roses, because it's much more symbolic than just looking at a rose, but appreciating and accepting where you're at and what's around you. There are some neighborhoods where I will drive through where I'll think, oh, this is the slums. By the way, this is just a sort of comparison. Like, I'm driving, I won't give the neighborhoods away because I've driven through many neighborhoods. I'm looking around and there's so much trash. And then since I drive people into like all kinds of different neighborhoods, I'll turn down one street and then suddenly like everything is clean and pristine in the neighborhood. Then there's all these other slums on the outsides. But everyone who's driving through that neighborhood thinks that it's a slum because they're just driving down the main street and all they see is the main drag and all the trash. Then a person who goes into the depths of the neighborhood starts to see all these kind of amazing neighborhoods, like, oh, I missed all this. I didn't even know that they existed. So the point of that story is like actually looking out for the beautiful things in your life will create Lakshmi for you. Looking out for those, like I mentioned, the idea of your boss having such a sweet response to you, like that was notable, right? An appreciation for her response, like focusing on that, like, wow, great boss, like she actually had a very like sweet, reasonable response. You know, kind of witnessing those things throughout the day could give one a better perspective on where Lakshmi is, as opposed to looking out for where seemingly Lakshmi is not. You can have an eye, a radar for either one, and we're well practiced usually in being critical and watching for people's mistakes rather than for their good deeds. Oftentimes, like what will stick with us will be, oh, that's what that person did to me. And every time we remember that person, we think about what they did to us, as opposed to remembering like, wow, you remember that person? They actually did this amazing thing for me. And like, I'm really grateful for them. That's a less common person who looks at things from that perspective. But it can be absolutely practiced. And maybe it takes someone else pointing out, like, look what that person just said or did for you. You know, someone may have to point it out, and you go, oh wow, you know, you're right. I didn't even notice that positive aspect of my boss or my working condition or whatever it is. So you switch your radar. Maybe the first step, and then clearly, and maybe not obviously, but the next step after that is, okay, now that I can see all the positive things, now can I clear out even dualities of positive and negative, which ultimately that's what the energy does, is it clears out ideas of, we'll say, good and evil inside the mind, the dualities. When good and evil is released, then the situation is what it is. There's a sense of beingness in the situation, as opposed to mind pointing out this is positive and this is negative. A big difference. That's more of an enlightened state of being. And that's why we do the meditations, to like relax into the energy, and that now we're not thinking about what's beautiful and what's not beautiful. We're in the beingness of beautiful.
We've taken off our karmic costumes.
Yeah. And then the sense of everything in the world is the beingness of beauty, as opposed to the appearance of beauty. on the outside appears dirty, on the inside, beingness. So the costume is the trickery of God, trying to trick us into seeing it as good and bad. And that creates the whole game of us chasing after the good and running away from the bad. And it's a whole game. For eons we play that game. Until one day we have profound meditation and realize there's no such thing as good and bad. In that meditative state, there's no such thing. Maybe this consciousness of good and bad, maybe I made it all up over all these eons. Maybe I did. Maybe I created it. Therefore, maybe I created my own suffering. Maybe I did it to myself. When we feel so good in meditation, because our good and bad is out of the way and we're just simply here. Kind of feels like a relief. Because thoughts of good and bad have weight to them. A thought has weight. It's like you're in a hot air balloon and you know those sandbags? Those sandbags are thoughts, weights. When the sandbags are gone, the balloon floats to the heavens. When thoughts are gone in the mind, the soul floats to the heavens.